Alright, buckle up, because this one is going to blow your mind. We're talking about Stray Kids, the group that went from a JYP survival show in 2017 to becoming one of the most commercially dominant K-pop acts on the entire planet. But here's the thing most people don't talk about. Behind those stadium tours and billion-stream albums, there's a whole other battlefield, the sponsorship game. We're talking luxury fashion houses, global beauty empires, and lifestyle brands literally fighting over these 8 guys, throwing jaw-dropping amounts of money just to have one of them hold a product or sit front row at a fashion show. But who among the 8 commands the highest price tag? Which member makes brands open their wallets the widest? Is it the one you'd expect, the viral face that broke the internet, or is there a dark horse sitting quietly at the top that nobody saw coming? Can the leader of the group outbid the most followed member? Does stage presence translate to sponsorship dollars? Or is it something else entirely, something deeper, something the numbers reveal but the fans rarely discuss? Here's what we know for sure. Not all ambassadorships are created equal, and tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the real money, fact by fact, deal by deal, from number 8 all the way to number 1. Trust me, by the time we hit the top 3, you're going to want to pause and rethink everything you thought you knew about Stray Kids. Let's get into it. Number 8, I.N, the Magnae's quiet rise, the brand world isn't ready for. Okay, so before you even say it, yes, number 8. Young Hyunjin, the Magnae of Stray Kids, the boy with the fox-like smile and that crystal-clear vocal tone that has melted millions of hearts since the survival show days, sits at the bottom of this list. But let me be absolutely clear about something before we go any further. Being number 8 on this list is not an insult. When you're talking about a group where every single member has luxury brands, lifestyle giants, and international corporations knocking on their door, being at the bottom of the pile still means you're sitting at a height that 99% of idols in this industry will never even sniff. So keep that perspective locked in, because I.N story here is way more interesting than just a ranking. It's a story about timing, potential, and the slow burn that might just end up being the most explosive in the long run. Born on February 8, 2001, in Busan, South Korea, Hyunjin was literally the youngest person to walk into the JYP Entertainment survival show that formed Stray Kids back in 2017. He was just 16 years old, and if you go back and watch those early episodes, you'll notice something. While the other trainees had years of underground training, mixtape releases, and performance experience behind them, Hyunjin was raw. He was unpolished. He was, by every conventional metric, the least ready member on that show. And yet, Bang Chan fought for him. The members saw something in him that the cameras couldn't fully capture at the time. That decision, to keep the youngest, to bet on his growth, is one of the most quietly brilliant moves in K-pop group formation history, because Hyunjin didn't just grow. He evolved into something the industry rarely produces. An idol whose charm feels completely unmanufactured. And that authenticity? That's gold in the endorsement world. Now, let's talk numbers and deals. Compared to his Hyungs, who we'll get into in the higher rankings, I.N's individual sponsorship portfolio has been more selective and, let's be honest, more modest in terms of the dollar figures attached. He's had brand collaborations with Korean lifestyle and fashion labels, appeared in campaigns that lean into his youthful, fresh-faced image, and has been featured in endorsements that target the younger demographic, think skincare, casual fashion, and digital lifestyle brands. In the Korean market specifically, his appeal is undeniable. His face screams, "Trust me, this product is wholesome," and brands in the health, wellness, and youth lifestyle sectors have recognized that. But here's where the gap shows up. Unlike some of his group mates who've landed full-blown global ambassador titles with billion-dollar luxury houses, the kind of deals where a single contract can be worth anywhere from several $100,000 to multiple millions of dollars annually, I.N's deals have tended to be more regional, more campaign-specific, and shorter in contract duration. That doesn't mean the money isn't significant. Even a mid-tier Korean brand endorsement for an idol of I.N's caliber can pull in anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000, 000 per campaign. But when you're comparing that to the multi-million-dollar annual retainers that top-tier global ambassadorships command, the arithmetic is straightforward. He's earning well, but he's not yet in the stratosphere that some of his members have already reached. And this is a massive, but the trajectory is what makes I.N fascinating from a brand economics perspective. See, the endorsement world doesn't just look at where you are right now. It looks at velocity. It looks at growth curves. And Hyunjin's individual social media growth, his increasing presence in variety show appearances, his solo content engagement rates, and his vocal performances that have been gaining serious recognition from music critics. All of these are indicators that brands use to project future value. Industry analysts who track K-pop endorsement economics have noted that magnates often experience what's called a delayed brand bloom. They start slower because brands initially gravitate toward the members with the most established individual identities. But as the group matures and the magnate comes into their own, the endorsement offers start accelerating. We've seen this pattern with other groups, the youngest member quietly building their brand equity until one day, a major deal lands and suddenly everyone's talking about them. There's also the Japan factor that cannot be ignored. Stray Kids has an enormous Japanese fan base, and I.N's image, that bright, approachable, almost anime character-like visual appeal, resonates incredibly well in the Japanese market. Japanese advertisers are known for paying premium rates for K-pop endorsements, and as Stray Kids continues to expand their Japanese promotions, I.N is positioned to be one of the biggest beneficiaries. Some industry insiders have speculated that it's only a matter of time before a major Japanese brand, think along the lines of Shiseido, Uniqlo, or even a major electronics brand, makes a significant play for Hyunjin specifically. And when that happens, this number 8 ranking could look very different in a year or two. What also makes Hyunjin's position interesting is his duality on stage. He can go from sweet and innocent to fierce and charismatic in a heartbeat, and that range is exactly what high-end brands look for when they're considering long-term ambassador potential. A brand doesn't just want someone who fits one campaign. They want someone who can embody multiple product lines, multiple seasons, multiple moods. And I.N has shown, especially in Stray Kids' more recent comebacks, that his range is expanding rapidly. His styling has matured, his confidence in front of cameras has skyrocketed, and his ability to carry a visual narrative, whether it's a high-fashion editorial or a casual streetwear look, has improved dramatically since the group's debut days. So yes, number 8. The lowest spot on this list. But don't mistake position for potential. Young Hyunjin is a ticking time bomb in the endorsement world, and the brands that get to him early, before the inevitable explosion, are going to look like absolute geniuses in hindsight. The magnate's time is coming, and when it does, this list might need a serious revision. Now here's what you need to ask yourself before we move on. If the magnate, the youngest member, the one with arguably the most room to grow, is already pulling in the kind of deals that most idols would dream of, then what does that tell you about the members ranked above him? If number 8 is already this impressive, what kind of insane numbers are we going to see at number 7? And more importantly, is the next member someone you'd expect to be this low, or is it a name that's going to make you say, wait, them? Number 7. Seungmin. The golden voice that brands underestimated until the numbers spoke. And just like that, we're at number 7. And if you're a stay who's been paying attention, really paying attention, this name might sting a little, but it also might make perfect sense once you hear the full story. Kim Seungmin. Born September 22, 2000, in Seoul, South Korea. The guy who walked into JYP Entertainment's open audition, nailed it, and earned his spot through sheer vocal ability and an almost supernatural level of discipline that even his own group mates constantly praise. Seungmin is, by virtually every technical vocal assessment out there, one of the most stable and reliable live singers in all of fourth-generation K-pop. His pitch accuracy is borderline robotic. In the best possible way, his tone is warm and clean, and his ability to deliver flawless vocals while performing intense choreography is something that vocal coaches and music producers have openly admired. But here's the paradox that the endorsement world reveals in brutal clarity. Being incredibly talented doesn't automatically mean being incredibly marketable in the sponsorship lane. And Seungmin's number 7 position on this list is a masterclass in understanding the difference between artistry and brand economics. Let's break this down with absolute honesty. Seungmin's individual brand portfolio, while respectable and growing, has historically been more selective and less flashy than some of his groupmates. He's had endorsement deals with Korean brands spanning lifestyle, fashion accessories, and consumer goods, the kind of deals that are solid, profitable, and reflect genuine brand alignment. His image, clean-cut, intelligent, dependable, slightly preppy, lends itself perfectly to brands that want to project trustworthiness and sophistication without the edginess that some luxury houses crave. Think of Seungmin as the member that a brand like a premium eyewear company, a high-end stationery brand, or a refined casual fashion label would look at and say, "That's our guy." And they'd be right, because Seungmin's audience engagement tells an interesting story. His fans are incredibly loyal, highly educated, and tend to have strong purchasing power. In marketing terms, his fan base has what's called a high conversion rate, meaning when Seungmin endorses something, his fans don't just like the post and scroll on, they actually buy the product. That's a metric that brands are increasingly paying attention to, and it's one area where Seungmin quietly outperforms some members who might have higher raw follower counts. But the reason he's at number 7 and not higher comes down to one critical factor in the sponsorship world: global ambassador titles. As of our current assessment, Seungmin hasn't locked in the kind of marquee, headline-grabbing global ambassadorship with a major international luxury house that catapults an idol's endorsement earnings into the multi-million-dollar per year category. And in the cold, calculated world of brand economics, that single distinction, having that one massive global deal versus having several smaller, but respectable ones, can mean a difference of literally millions of dollars annually. It's not fair, it's not a reflection of talent or worth, but it's how the math works. A single global ambassador contract with a house like Dior, Louis Vuitton, Versace, or Givenchy can pay anywhere from $1 million to $5 million per year, plus additional per appearance fees, campaign bonuses, and product royalties. Meanwhile, a collection of regional endorsements, even really good ones, might total somewhere in the 500,000 to 1.2 million range combined. Seungmin is firmly in that second category right now, and that's what places him at number 7. But let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed in these rankings: Seungmin's baseball connection, and what it means for a completely different endorsement vertical. This man is a certified baseball fanatic. His love for the Doosan Bears, his regular appearances at KBO games, his social media posts about baseball, this isn't just a hobby. It's a genuine, visible, and marketable part of his identity. And in South Korea, where baseball is one of the most popular sports with a massive advertising ecosystem, that connection opens a door that literally none of his other groupmates can walk through. Sports brands, baseball equipment manufacturers, sports broadcasting networks, and even sports drink companies. These are all potential endorsement categories where Seungmin has a unique and authentic inroad. We've seen other Korean celebrities leverage their sports connections into significant endorsement deals, and Seungmin is sitting on an untapped goldmine in that regard. The fact that his baseball enthusiasm is organic and well-documented makes it even more valuable, because brands today are obsessed with authenticity. They don't want a celebrity holding a product they obviously don't use. They want someone who genuinely lives and breathes the lifestyle. Seungmin with a baseball glove, Seungmin at a ballpark, Seungmin wearing athletic gear. That's not staged. That's just his life, and smart brands should be lining up to capitalize on it. There's another dimension to Seungmin's brand story that deserves attention: his reputation within the K-pop community as someone with exceptional character. Fellow idols, industry professionals, and even JYP Entertainment staff have consistently described Seungmin as one of the most disciplined, respectful, and genuinely kind individuals in the company. In an industry where brand deals can evaporate overnight due to scandal or controversy, Seungmin represents what marketers call a low-risk, high-reliability asset. Brands that sign him know that they're getting someone who won't embarrass them, someone who will show up prepared, deliver the work professionally, and represent their product with genuine integrity. That reliability factor is increasingly important in the K-pop endorsement landscape, especially after several high-profile brand deals with other idols collapsed due to scandals, dating rumors, or social media controversies. Seungmin is essentially a blue-chip stock, maybe not the most explosive short-term growth, but incredibly safe and consistently valuable. His vocal reputation also opens doors in a specific endorsement category that's often overlooked: audio and music technology. Premium headphone brands, music streaming services, audio equipment manufacturers, and even musical instrument companies. These are all sectors where Seungmin's identity as a top-tier vocalist gives him credibility that most idols simply don't have. When a recognized vocalist endorses a pair of headphones, consumers take that recommendation more seriously than when a random celebrity does it. That authenticity premium, again, is something that Seungmin has naturally and that brands are increasingly willing to pay for. Looking at the bigger picture, Seungmin at number 7 is really a story about patience and positioning. He's not the member that makes the flashiest headlines in the fashion world. He's not the one whose airport photos go viral with millions of interactions. But he's the one who, deal by deal, collaboration by collaboration, is building something methodical and sustainable. His endorsement portfolio may not have the eye-popping individual numbers of some members ranked above him, but the foundation he's laying, the sports connection, the vocal credibility, the character reputation, the loyal and high-converting fan base, is the kind of foundation that, when the right global deal finally comes along, will make the transition from number 7 to the upper tier feel almost inevitable. The question isn't whether Seungmin will land a major global deal. The question is which brand will be smart enough to sign him first. Now think about this. We've only covered number 8 and number 7, and already we're talking about members with endorsement portfolios that most idols would trade their entire careers for. The members still above? They're operating on a completely different level. So here's what I want you to think about before we move on. Number 6 is a member who might genuinely surprise you, someone whose brand appeal comes from a lane that nobody else in Stray Kids occupies. Is it the producer? The rapper? The performer? You think you know, but do you really? Number 6, Changbin, the powerhouse rapper with a brand lane nobody else can touch. Number 6, and let me tell you right now, this one is going to shift how you think about what makes a K-pop idol valuable to sponsors. Because we're not talking about a pretty face in a luxury campaign. We're not talking about someone who got scouted on the street for their visuals. We're talking about Changbin, born August 11th, 1999, in Hyunjin, South Korea, a 5'6" force of absolute destruction on the mic, 1/3 of the legendary production unit 3 Racha. And arguably the most physically intimidating compact human being in all of 4th-generation K-pop. And if you're wondering why a rapper who writes bars about struggle, grind, and raw ambition is pulling in the kind of sponsorship money that lands him at number 6 on this list, then you haven't been paying attention to one of the most fascinating shifts in the K-pop endorsement landscape over the last 3 years. Because Changbin didn't get here by fitting into the traditional mold of what a brand-friendly idol looks like. He got here by obliterating that mold entirely and proving that there's serious money in a lane that nobody else in Stray Kids, and frankly, very few idols in the entire industry, can occupy. Let's start with the obvious, the physique. Changbin's body is, in the most objective commercial sense, a marketing asset. The man is built. We're talking about an idol who regularly posts gym content, whose arms look like they were sculpted by a Renaissance artist with a protein powder sponsorship, and whose physical transformation over the years has been documented and celebrated by fans and fitness communities alike. In the K-pop world, where the beauty standard has historically leaned toward slim, elongated, almost ethereal figures, Changbin represents something different: strength, power, masculinity in a form that's both aspirational and attainable. And brands in the fitness, sportswear, and athleisure sectors? They've taken notice. His individual brand collaborations in this space represent a niche that literally no other Stray Kids member competes in. While his crewmates are wearing silk Versace shirts and posing for delicate fragrance campaigns, Changbin is the guy that a sportswear brand looks at and says, he actually uses this stuff. He lives this lifestyle. Put him in our campaign and people will believe it. That authenticity premium, the same concept we talked about with Seungmin's baseball connection, but amplified, is worth serious money. Athletic and lifestyle brands typically pay between 300,000 to 800,000 per campaign for K-pop endorsements in this category, and for someone with Changbin's proven fitness, credibility, and massive engaged fan base, those numbers push toward the higher end. But Changbin's sponsorship story goes way beyond just flexing biceps in activewear ads. Here's something that the casual observer might miss. Changbin is a creator. Not just a performer, a creator. As one-third of 3 Racha alongside Bangchan and Han, he's credited on virtually every Stray Kids song. He writes, he produces, he arranges, he conceptualizes. And in the modern endorsement economy, the creator identity is one of the most valuable brand associations possible. Why? Because the global advertising industry has undergone a seismic shift toward what's called creator economy marketing. Brands no longer just want celebrities to hold their products. They want creators who can generate original content, who can tell stories, who can bring an authentic creative perspective to the brand's narrative. And Changbin, with his proven track record as a songwriter and producer, embodies that creator identity more convincingly than almost any idol in the game. This opens up endorsement categories that most idols can't access: music production software, audio equipment, creative technology platforms, digital content creation tools, and even educational platforms related to music and artistry. These might not be the glamorous fashion house deals that make headlines, but they're consistent, well-paying, and perfectly aligned with Changbin's authentic identity. The tech and creative tools sector in K-pop endorsements has been growing rapidly, and Changbin is positioned right at the intersection of that growth. Now let's talk about something that makes Changbin uniquely interesting from a brand psychology perspective, his duality. And I don't mean the generic stage versus off-stage duality that every K-pop idol claims to have. Changbin's duality is extreme, and it's genuine. On stage, this man is terrifying. The way he attacks a beat, the intensity in his eyes during performances, the raw aggression in his rap delivery, it's almost uncomfortable how powerful he is. But off-stage? Off-camera? In variety shows and behind-the-scenes content? Changbin is quite possibly the most adorable, soft, clingy, and emotionally vulnerable member of Stray Kids. He cries easily. He hugs everyone. He says, "I love you" to his members without an ounce of irony. He's nicknamed Changbin-ie and Dweji, and fans melt every time he does literally anything cute, which is constantly. This extreme duality is a brand strategist's dream because it means Changbin can authentically represent 2 completely different brand personalities. He can be the face of an aggressive streetwear line and a cozy lifestyle brand. He can sell energy drinks and skincare. He can front a campaign that screams power and one that whispers comfort. That versatility, when quantified in endorsement terms, significantly increases his total addressable market, meaning more brands across more categories can see themselves working with him, which drives up both the volume and the value of his deals. His streetwear and urban fashion endorsements deserve special attention here. Changbin's personal style leans heavily into the streetwear aesthetic: oversized hoodies, chunky sneakers, bold graphic tees, statement accessories. And in the K-pop endorsement ecosystem, streetwear is a category that's exploded in value over the last few years. Brands like Supreme, Off-White, A Bathing Ape, and their Korean equivalents have increasingly looked to K-pop idols to front their campaigns, and Changbin's natural alignment with that aesthetic makes him a top-tier candidate. His airport fashion alone, those candid photos of idols walking through airports that fans obsess over, consistently trends in the streetwear and urban fashion direction, generating organic engagement that brands can leverage without paying a single additional one. That organic brand alignment, where the idol's personal style naturally showcases the brand's aesthetic, is something that endorsement contracts increasingly account for and compensate. Let's also address the three-racha factor from a pure business standpoint. When brands sign Changbin, they're not just getting a rapper, they're getting a verified hitmaker. Three-racha's production credits span dozens of songs, multiple platinum-certified albums, and tracks that have charted globally. That production credibility gives Changbin leverage in endorsement negotiations that pure performers don't have. He can legitimately say, "I'm not just performing your campaign song, I could write it." And some brands have started exploring exactly that kind of integrated deal, where the idol isn't just the face of the campaign, but also contributes creatively to the campaign's music, content, or concept. These integrated deals typically command a premium of 30–50% over standard endorsement contracts because the brand is getting creative IP in addition to the celebrity's image rights. Changbin's position as number 6 reflects a portfolio that's diverse, authentic, and strategically positioned across multiple high-growth endorsement categories. He may not have the single massive global luxury deal that would vault him into the top tier of this list, but the combination of fitness brands, streetwear collaborations, creative technology partnerships, and his growing individual visibility makes his total endorsement earnings highly competitive. He's earning real money across multiple streams, and the trajectory suggests that as brands continue to shift toward creator-driven marketing and authentic lifestyle alignment, Changbin's value is only going to increase. The rapper from Hyunjin who was told he was too short, too intense, too different from the K-pop standard, that guy is now sitting on an endorsement portfolio that proves the market doesn't just reward beauty. It rewards identity. And Changbin's identity is bulletproof. Alright, take a breath, because we're about to enter the zone where the numbers start getting genuinely wild. Number 5 is where things shift from impressive to jaw-dropping, and the member sitting there? Let's just say he carries a title within Stray Kids that comes with a weight most people don't fully understand, and sponsors have figured out exactly how much that weight is worth in cold, hard cash. Who leads when the spotlight demands more than just talent? Think about it. Number 5, Bang Chan, the leader who turned loyalty into a luxury and brands paid premium for it. Number 5. And yeah, this is the one that's going to spark debate in every Stay group chat from Seoul to Sydney. Because we're talking about the man, the myth, the leader Christopher Bang, known to the world as Bang Chan, born October 3rd, 1997, not in South Korea, but in Sydney, Australia. The guy who left his family at 13 years old, flew across an ocean alone, trained at JYP Entertainment for nearly 7 brutal years. 7 years of evaluations, rejections, lineup changes, and moments where quitting would have been the easiest and most logical thing to do, and then not only debuted, but handpicked his own team, built his own group from the ground up, produced their music, and led them to become one of the biggest acts in global pop culture. That's not a bio. That's an origin story that belongs in a movie. And sponsors? Sponsors see that story, and they see something money can't manufacture: authenticity, resilience, and a personal brand so deeply rooted in trust and leadership that it practically sells itself. So why is this titan of a leader at number 5 and not higher? Buckle up, because the answer reveals everything about how the endorsement game really works and why being the most respected doesn't always mean being the most expensive. Let's start with the deal that put Bang Chan firmly on the fashion endorsement map: Polo Ralph Lauren. When Bang Chan was tapped as an ambassador for one of the most iconic American fashion houses in existence, it wasn't just a brand deal, it was a statement. Ralph Lauren is a brand built on a very specific identity: classic American elegance, timeless sophistication, and a kind of effortless cool that transcends trends. And Bang Chan, with his bicultural identity, his fluent English, his athletic build, and his natural ability to make a crew neck sweater look like it belongs on a runway, he was a perfect fit. The campaigns were polished, the visuals were stunning, and the fan response was massive. Stay flooded retail sites, social media engagement spiked on Ralph Lauren's channels, and the partnership was widely regarded as one of the smartest K-pop endorsement moves in the mid-tier luxury segment. But here's where the nuance of the endorsement world comes in, and this is crucial for understanding why Bang Chan sits at number 5 rather than, say, number 2 or 3. Polo Ralph Lauren, while undeniably prestigious and globally recognized, occupies a different commercial tier than the European ultra-luxury houses that some of Bang Chan's group mates are aligned with. In the fashion endorsement hierarchy, there's a distinction between what industry insiders call accessible luxury and high luxury. Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, these are accessible luxury brands. They're aspirational, they're respected, and they're massive businesses, but their endorsement budgets and ambassador compensation structures are fundamentally different from houses like Louis Vuitton, Versace, Givenchy, or Dior. The gap in what these two tiers pay their celebrity ambassadors can be staggering. We're talking potentially 2 to 3 times the annual compensation for a high-luxury global ambassadorship compared to an accessible luxury deal. And that gap, more than anything else, is what positions Bang Chan at number 5 on this list. It's not about talent, it's not about influence, it's not about impact, it's about the specific financial tier of the brand partnership. Now, what makes Bang Chan's endorsement story incredibly compelling despite this ranking is the breadth and depth of his additional brand appeal. As the leader of Stray Kids, Bang Chan carries a title that has tangible commercial value in ways that non-fans rarely understand. In K-pop, the leader isn't just a group position, it's a brand identity in itself. The leader represents responsibility, trustworthiness, and decision-making authority. When a brand signs the leader of a major group, they're signaling to consumers, we chose the person that everyone in this group looks up to. That psychological framing has measurable impact on consumer perception, and brands that specialize in premium categories, financial services, automotive, technology, premium beverages, gravitate toward leader-type endorsers because their products require consumers to make trust-based purchasing decisions. Bang Chan's leadership identity opens endorsement doors that simply aren't available to the other members, regardless of how popular or visually striking they might be. His Australian background and native-level English fluency add another layer of commercial value that's becoming increasingly important in the K-pop endorsement landscape. As K-pop groups expand their reach into Western markets, North America, Europe, Australia, brands are actively seeking ambassadors who can authentically bridge the gap between Korean and Western markets. Bang Chan doesn't just bridge that gap, he lives it. He can do press interviews in English without a translator. He can shoot campaign content that feels natural in both a Seoul boutique and a Sydney harbor setting. He can connect with Western media in a way that removes the friction that brands sometimes experience with K-pop endorsements in non-Asian markets. That bicultural fluidity has real monetary value, and it's a key reason why his endorsement earnings, while not the highest on this list, are remarkably robust when you factor in both Korean and international deals. Let's talk about Stay with Chan, formerly known as Chan's Room, because this is a piece of the endorsement puzzle that's genuinely unique. Bang Chan's regular live streams, where he sits in the studio, plays music, talks to fans, and just exists in this incredibly warm, intimate, personal way, have become one of the most talked about direct-to-fan content formats in K-pop. These streams consistently pull massive viewership numbers, trend worldwide on social media, and generate the kind of authentic parasocial connection that brands are desperate to tap into. While these streams themselves aren't directly monetized through brand deals in the traditional sense, the engagement metrics they generate, the viewer counts, the real-time interaction rates, the post-stream social media amplification, feed directly into Bang Chan's overall brand valuation. When a sponsor evaluates a potential ambassador, they don't just look at follower counts. They look at engagement quality, audience retention, and emotional connection depth. And Bang Chan's live stream metrics in these categories are among the highest of any K-pop idol, period. That data directly influences how much brands are willing to pay for his name and face. The production angle is another underappreciated asset in Bang Chan's endorsement portfolio. As the driving force behind 3 Racha and the primary architect of Stray Kids' musical identity, Bang Chan has producer credits that most idols can only dream of. He's sat in studios with Ryan Tedder, he's collaborated with global producers, and he's been publicly recognized by industry heavyweights for his songwriting and production abilities. This creative credibility, Similar to what we discussed with Changbin, but amplified by the leader title, makes Bangchan attractive to a category of brands that goes beyond fashion and lifestyle. Audio technology companies, music production software platforms, creative workspace brands, and even educational institutions focused on music and the arts. These are all sectors where Bangchan's endorsement carries genuine authority. His fan demographic also skews slightly older and more financially independent compared to some other members, which is a data point that premium brands weigh heavily when calculating expected return on investment for an endorsement deal. The honest truth about Bangchan at number 5 is this: he's probably the most universally respected and admired member of Stray Kids, both within the fandom and within the industry. His work ethic is legendary. His loyalty to his members is unshakable. His artistry is undeniable. But the endorsement world doesn't rank by respect, it ranks by deal value, contract size, and brand tier. And while Bangchan's portfolio is diversified, authentic, and commercially strong, the members ranked above him have locked in partnerships with brands that simply operate at a higher financial ceiling. It's not a reflection of worth. It's a reflection of market mechanics. And if there's one member on this entire list who could, with a single major deal announcement tomorrow, completely reshuffle these rankings, it's Bangchan. Because the moment a top-tier European luxury house, or a major global technology brand, or an automotive giant decides to put their chips on the leader of Stray Kids, the numbers are going to be massive. The foundation is already there. The story is already legendary. All it takes is one phone call. Okay, now we're crossing into territory where the sponsorship figures start to hit numbers that would make most corporate executives do a double take. Number 4, and I need you to really sit with this, features a member whose relationship with one of the most powerful luxury brands on the planet has reshaped how the entire industry thinks about rapper endorsements. Surprised? You shouldn't be. Or maybe you should. Either way, you're not ready for what's coming. Number 4, Han, the quokka who made Prada rewrite its playbook, and the check was massive. Number 4, and we have officially entered the big leagues. The zone where the endorsement contracts have enough zeros to make your head spin, where the brand names aren't just prestigious, they're generational, they're historic. They're the kind of names that even people who've never bought a luxury item in their life recognize instantly. And sitting right here at number 4 is a member who, if you'd told the K-pop industry 5 years ago would become one of the most sought-after faces in high fashion, they would have laughed you out of the room. Not because he isn't talented, God, no, he's absurdly talented, but because he broke every single rule about what a luxury fashion ambassador is supposed to look like and be. Ladies and gentlemen, number 4, Han Ji-sung. Born September 14, 2000, in Incheon, South Korea, raised partly in Malaysia, 1/3 of the production powerhouse 3 Racha, and the human embodiment of the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. Because this man went from being called a quokka by fans for his round cheeks and expressive little face to sitting front row at Prada's most exclusive runway shows with creative directors personally requesting his attendance. Let that sink in. Prada. One of the oldest, most revered, most commercially powerful Italian luxury houses in existence. A brand founded in 1913. A brand whose creative legacy includes revolutionizing minimalist fashion in the 90s, redefining intellectual luxury for the modern era, and maintaining a level of exclusivity that makes even other luxury houses jealous. That Prada looked at Han Ji-sung, a rapper, a songwriter, a performer known more for his lyrical intensity and chaotic variety show energy than for traditional model-esque visuals, and said, "We want him." Is one of the most fascinating endorsement stories in K-pop history. And the money behind that decision? It's exactly why he's at number 4 on this list. Let's unpack the Prada connection in full, because this isn't just about showing up to a fashion show and wearing free clothes. Han's relationship with Prada represents a genuine strategic alignment that the brand's marketing team carefully cultivated. Prada, under the creative direction of Miuccia Prada and later the Miuccia Raf Simons co-creative era, has always positioned itself as the intellectual luxury brand, the house that values ideas over aesthetics, substance over surface, the unconventional over the predictable. And if you know anything about Han Ji-sung, you know that description fits him like a glove. Han is not the conventional idol. He doesn't fit neatly into the visual member box. His appeal isn't about symmetrical features or towering height. It's about energy, about expression, about a face that communicates more emotion in a single camera glance than most actors can convey in an entire scene. Prada recognized that Han's brand of charisma aligned perfectly with their own brand philosophy. The idea that true luxury isn't about looking perfect, it's about being unforgettable. And unforgettable? Han Ji-sung has been that since the moment he first stepped on stage. The financial dimension of Han's Prada association is significant. While the exact figures of K-pop luxury endorsement deals are closely guarded secrets, these contracts typically include strict non-disclosure clauses about compensation. Industry analysts and insiders who track the K-pop endorsement market have consistently placed Prada's K-pop investments in the upper tier. When Prada commits to an ambassador relationship with a K-pop idol, the financial package typically includes an annual retainer that can range from $50,000 to $150,000 per show, campaign shoot fees, social media posting requirements with associated compensation, and often a clothing and accessories allowance that, while not cash, represents significant monetary value. When you add all of these components together, Han's Prada-connected earnings alone represent a substantial income stream, and that's before you factor in any of his other brand partnerships. But here's what makes Han's endorsement profile even more compelling than just the Prada deal. His versatility as a brand personality allows him to work across categories that most luxury-aligned idols can't touch. Because Han isn't just a fashion figure, he's a rapper, a vocalist, a producer, a comedian, a meme generator, and quite possibly the most quotable member of Stray Kids. His variety show appearances, his unfiltered reactions, his ability to go from delivering the most devastating rap verse you've ever heard to making the most ridiculous facial expression imaginable within the span of 3 seconds. That range gives him endorsement appeal across an incredibly wide spectrum. Food and beverage brands love him because he's relatable and expressive. Tech brands are interested because his producer identity lends creative credibility. Casual and streetwear fashion brands see him as an alternative to the typical polished idol look. And mental health and wellness brands, and this is a genuinely important point, have recognized Han's openness about his own anxiety and mental health struggles as an incredibly powerful and authentic association. Han has spoken publicly, on multiple occasions, about dealing with anxiety, about the pressure of being an idol, about the moments where the weight of it all felt overwhelming. In an industry that often pressures its artists to maintain a facade of constant positivity and perfection, Han's honesty about his mental health has resonated deeply not just with fans, but with organizations and brands working in the wellness space. Mental health awareness campaigns, mindfulness apps, therapy platforms, and wellness product lines, these are all emerging endorsement categories in the K-pop space, and Han is arguably the most credible idol in the industry to front them. The commercial value of that credibility, in terms of actual endorsement dollars, is harder to quantify than a straightforward fashion deal. But it's real, and it's growing as global brands increasingly prioritize ambassadors who can authentically represent social impact messaging. Let's also address the Malaysia connection, because it's a dimension of Han's brand value that often gets overlooked. Han spent part of his childhood in Malaysia, and while he doesn't speak fluent Malay, his connection to Southeast Asia gives him an authenticity in that market that pure Korean-raised idols simply can't replicate. Southeast Asia is one of the fastest-growing K-pop markets in the world, with countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia representing massive consumer bases for both luxury and mainstream brands. An idol with a genuine biographical connection to the region carries what marketers call market-specific cultural capital, and that capital translates directly into higher endorsement valuations for campaigns targeting Southeast Asian consumers. Brands looking to penetrate or strengthen their position in the ASEAN market see Han as a strategic asset, not just a celebrity face. His multilingual capability, Korean as his primary language, English proficiency, and cultural familiarity with Malaysian and broader Southeast Asian culture makes him versatile in ways that make marketing teams very, very happy. And then there's the raw creative output factor. Hyunjin is, by measurable output, one of the most prolific songwriters in all of K-pop. His Komka credits are extensive. His involvement in Stray Kids' creative process goes far beyond just recording vocals. He's in the room when songs are born, shaping melodies, writing verses, and contributing to the conceptual vision of entire albums. That creative prolificacy gives him a brand identity that goes beyond idol and into artist, and in the endorsement world, the artist label commands a premium. When Rolling Stone, Billboard, and NME publish articles that mention Han as a songwriter and not just a performer, that editorial credibility amplifies his brand value in a way that pure social media metrics can't capture. Brands that position themselves as patrons of the arts, luxury houses, cultural institutions, creative technology companies see artist-endorsed partnerships as more prestigious and impactful than standard celebrity endorsements, and they pay accordingly. Looking at the total picture, Hyunjin at number 4 represents a convergence of factors that make him one of the most uniquely valuable endorsers in K-pop. The Prada relationship anchors his portfolio at the luxury tier. His versatility opens doors across multiple additional categories. His mental health advocacy gives him cultural relevance beyond fashion. His Southeast Asian connection expands his geographic brand value. And his relentless creative output cements his identity as an artist endorser, a category that commands premium pricing in the endorsement market. The Kwaka from Incheon who writes rap verses about his insecurities and makes millions laugh with his facial expressions is, commercially speaking, one of the smartest investments a brand can make in the K-pop space right now. And Prada knew it before almost anyone else did. Number 3 Lino, the dancer who made Givenchy break their own rules, and the price tag proved it. Number 3. Top 3. This is where the air gets thinner, where the contracts get heavier, and where we stop talking about endorsement deals and start talking about endorsement empires. And if you've been following the breadcrumbs, the teasers, the hints, the way I described this member as someone whose deal announcement made an entire industry sit up straight, then maybe, just maybe, you already know who this is. But even if you guess the name, I promise you, you don't know the full story. Not even close. Number 3, Lino. Lee Mi-ho. Born October 25, 1998 in Gimpo, South Korea. The main dancer of Stray Kids. The man whose body moves like it was engineered in a laboratory specifically designed to make choreographers weep with joy. The member who, before he ever set foot on a JYP Entertainment stage as a trainee, was already dancing backup for BTS. Yes, that BTS on actual broadcast stages at an age when most teenagers were worried about homework. The idol who got eliminated during the Stray Kids survival show, only to be brought back because the group literally felt incomplete without him. And now, the global brand ambassador for Givenchy, one of the most legendary, most storied, most fiercely exclusive luxury fashion houses in the history of human civilization. When that announcement dropped, the fashion world didn't just take notice. It recalibrated. Because Givenchy choosing Lino wasn't just a brand deal. It was a declaration. Let me give you the context you need to understand why this Givenchy ambassadorship is sitting at number 3 on this list, and what it means in raw financial terms. Givenchy is not just any luxury house. Founded in 1952 by Hubert de Givenchy, this is the brand that dressed Audrey Hepburn. The brand that defined French haute couture elegance for an entire generation. The brand that, even within the LVMH conglomerate, which owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, Celine, and dozens of other luxury powerhouses, holds a special position as one of the group's crown jewels. When Givenchy selects a global ambassador, it's not a casual marketing decision made by a mid-level brand manager looking at social media analytics. It's a strategic move approved at the highest levels of the house, involving creative directors, the CEO, and often input from LVMH's executive leadership. The vetting process is rigorous. The expectations are enormous, and the compensation reflects the gravity of the partnership. Industry estimates for a Givenchy global ambassadorship of this caliber, encompassing fashion campaigns, fragrance representation, front-row presence at couture and ready-to-wear shows, digital content obligations, and exclusivity clauses, place the annual value somewhere in the range of $2 million to $4 million per year. And that's the base. When you factor in performance bonuses tied to measurable metrics like social media engagement, website traffic spikes, and sales lift attributable to the ambassador's content, the total annual value can climb even higher. Lino's Givenchy deal is, by any reasonable estimate, one of the most lucrative individual endorsement contracts held by any fourth-generation K-pop idol. Period. But why Lino? Why did Givenchy, a house known for its exacting standards and its refusal to chase trends, choose this particular idol out of the entire K-pop landscape? The answer lies in understanding what Givenchy has been doing with its brand identity over the last several years, and how Lino fits into that evolution with almost eerie precision. Under its recent creative direction, Givenchy has been pushing a visual identity that balances sharp, architectural tailoring with a dark, almost gothic edge, a kind of elegant danger, if you will. The brand wants its ambassadors to embody sophistication and intensity simultaneously. Not just pretty, not just edgy. Both at the same time, without compromise. And if you've ever watched Lino perform, truly watched him, not just casually glanced at a fan cam, you know that this description could have been written about him specifically. Lino's stage presence is a study in controlled intensity. He doesn't just dance. He commands space. Every movement is precise, deliberate, and loaded with an almost predatory grace that makes it impossible to look away. His facial expressions during performances oscillate between serene and fierce with a subtlety that most performers can't achieve. He's the member that dance professionals consistently point to when discussing technical excellence in K-pop, not because he does the most flashy tricks, but because his fundamentals are so clean, his musicality so refined, and his spatial awareness so acute that every piece of choreography looks like it was designed specifically for his body. That physical artistry, that ability to make movement feel like sculpture, is exactly the kind of visual language that a fashion house wants associated with its brand. When Lino wears Givenchy, he doesn't just model the clothes, he inhabits them. He gives the garments a narrative. And that transformation from celebrity wearing a product to artist embodying a brand is what separates a standard endorsement from a partnership that a luxury house is willing to pay top dollar for. Then there's the cat dad phenomenon, and I swear this is relevant to the endorsement conversation. Lino's devotion to his three cats, Suni, Doonji, and Dory, is one of the most well-documented and beloved aspects of his public persona. He talks about them constantly, posts about them regularly, and has built an entire secondary identity around being a devoted cat parent. In the endorsement world, this creates a fascinating secondary market. Pet care brands, pet accessories, pet food companies, and lifestyle brands with pet-adjacent product lines all see Lino as a dream endorser. The global pet care market is valued at over $300 billion, and K-pop idols with authenticated pet owner identities represent a niche, but highly valuable endorsement category within that market. Lino isn't just competing for fashion and beauty deals, he's got a lane in the pet care endorsement space that virtually no other top-tier K-pop idol can match. That diversification of endorsement categories, anchored by the Givenchy mega deal, is part of what makes his total sponsorship income so formidable. Let's discuss something that often gets buried in the visual spectacle of Lino's brand partnerships, his remarkably clean public image. In an industry where controversy can derail endorsement contracts worth millions, Lino has maintained a reputation that's almost absurdly pristine. He's never been involved in a scandal. His public behavior, both on camera and in fan interactions, has been consistently professional, warm, and appropriate. His social media presence is carefully curated without feeling inauthentic. For luxury brands, this kind of reputational stability isn't just preferred, it's required. Givenchy's contract, like most luxury house ambassador agreements, almost certainly includes morality clauses that allow the brand to terminate the partnership if the ambassador engages in behavior that damages the brand's reputation. The fact that Lee Know represents essentially zero risk on this front makes him not just attractive, but ideal from a brand risk management perspective. And that risk-free status directly influences the financial terms of the deal. Brands are willing to pay more for ambassadors who they know won't cost them a PR crisis. His dance background also feeds into an endorsement narrative that transcends traditional fashion partnerships. Lee Know's pre-debut experience as a professional backup dancer, including that legendary stint dancing for BTS, gives him a performance credibility that extends into categories like sportswear, athletic wear, and performance technology. Dance is one of the most physically demanding art forms, and brands in the activewear and sports technology space are increasingly looking to dancers and performers rather than traditional athletes for endorsement partnerships, because dancers represent a combination of artistry and athleticism that resonates with younger consumers. Lee Know's ability to authentically straddle the worlds of high fashion and physical performance gives him a dual market appeal that amplifies his total endorsement valuation. What solidifies Lee Know at number 3 is the sheer weight of the Givenchy partnership combined with his multi-category brand appeal. He's not a one-deal wonder relying solely on a luxury house contract for his ranking. He's a diversified endorsement portfolio with a luxury anchor, a pet care niche, an activewear adjacent appeal, and a personal brand built on precision, elegance, and reliability. The boy from Gimpo who danced behind BTS as a teenager is now standing in front of Givenchy as the face of their global campaigns, and the fashion industry's biggest players are watching to see what he does next. Because at number 3, Lee Know isn't just participating in the luxury endorsement game, he's reshaping it. Number 2, Hyunjin, the Versace prince who conquered Milan and redefined modern luxury. Hwang Hyunjin's story is the ultimate testament to the power of spite-driven success turned into global luxury dominance. Born on March 20, 2000, in Seoul, South Korea, Hyunjin didn't grow up dreaming of the stage. He was scouted on the street by JYP Entertainment while simply shopping with his mother, knowing absolutely nothing about dance, singing, or rapping. When he joined the company, some trainees openly told him he would debut just because of his face, a harsh comment that sparked an absolute fire in him that has never been put out as he locked himself in practice rooms, dancing until he literally collapsed, earning the nickname Dance Racha's hard worker through sheer blood, sweat, and tears. That obsessive dedication to his craft is the exact same energy he brought into the fashion world years later, and it's why global luxury brands didn't just see him as a model, but as a muse. Let's talk about the moment that changed everything, Versace. In July 2023, Versace officially announced Hwang Hyunjin as their global brand ambassador, but here is the detail that blew the minds of fashion insiders. This wasn't just a corporate press release because Donatella Versace, the legendary creative director and sister of the late Gianni Versace, personally welcomed him to the Versace family. Donatella went on her own personal Instagram, sharing photos of Hyunjin and calling him her Versace prince, an endorsement move that is practically unheard of in K-pop, where deals are usually handled by corporate managers rather than the creative directors themselves. Donatella fell in love with Hyunjin's dramatic, bold, and unapologetically expressive aesthetic, which perfectly matches the Baroque DNA of the house, which has always been about rock and roll attitude, sensuality, and theatricality. And Hyunjin's stage presence, characterized by his long hair, sharp gaze, and fluid movements, embodied that philosophy better than anyone else in the K-pop industry. Before Versace secured the contract, there was an intense behind-the-scenes bidding war between several top-tier European luxury houses, with rumors circulating that Yves Saint Laurent and Celine were actively preparing proposals, which drove up his market value to unprecedented heights. The financial scale of this partnership is astronomical, with industry experts estimating Hyunjin's Versace contract alone to be worth between 3 million to 5 million annually, making it one of the absolute highest-paying deals in K-pop history, including global campaigns where his face is plastered on towering billboards from Times Square in New York to the Champs-Élysées in Paris. But the cash doesn't stop with the base contract because the earned media value, EMV, he generates is where the true madness lies. During Milan Fashion Week, his presence generated over $4.2 million in EMV with just a handful of social media posts, a return on investment that makes corporate accountants weep with joy. He was selected as the sole face of the Versace holiday campaign, a global marketing push that saw his face on massive digital screens in Tokyo's Shibuya Crossing and London's Piccadilly Circus, a placement that costs millions of dollars per week alone. And the Hyunjin effect in retail is terrifyingly real, such as when he wore a specific Versace safety pin knit top and it sold out globally within hours, proving that his followers aren't just liking his photos. They're walking into boutiques with their credit cards ready. Beyond fashion, he caught the attention of Cartier, the ultimate French high jewelry house, which featured him in their iconic Trinity Collection campaigns for its historic 100th anniversary. A massive deal since jewelry contracts are notoriously difficult to secure because the product prices are so high and the target audience is older and wealthier, proving Hyunjin's influence spans across generations to high net worth individuals. For the Cartier Trinity 100th anniversary campaign, Cartier selected him alongside global icons like Jisoo of Blackpink and Jackson Wang, showcasing his entry into the absolute elite tier of K-pop brand power, where the contracts are structured with multi-year renewals and global exclusivity clauses that prevent him from wearing any other luxury jewelry brand in public. We must also look at his legendary Play with Fire Studio Chim performance, which acted as a visual portfolio that fashion directors watched in awe, showcasing his ability to tell stories through his body, an artistic depth that he also expresses through his oil paintings which he shares with fans. When you combine the Versace multi-million-dollar retainer with his Cartier campaigns, plus his share of Stray Kids group endorsements like Samsung, Tommy Hilfiger, and Latte Duty Free, his individual brand value is simply staggering. And his presence at the La Vacanza collection launch in Cannes alongside Dua Lipa solidified his status as a legitimate global celebrity. When we look back at the survival show days, when he was crying because he felt his skills were inadequate compared to the other members, and compare it to him sitting next to the elite of the global fashion industry in Milan, the contrast is deeply moving. He didn't just get lucky. He built his visual brand through discipline, carefully curating his hair, his posture, and his walk to project an aura of effortless, high-fashion mystery that makes him look like a living painting. The sheer volume of sponsorship money flowing into his portfolio is a direct reflection of his work ethic and his unique, magnetic appeal, establishing a benchmark for what K-pop ambassadorships can be, as he didn't just sign a contract, but became a muse for one of the greatest fashion houses in history, and the brand world has paid him a king's ransom for the privilege. Number 1. Felix, the Australian kid who became fashion's most wanted face, and the numbers are insane. If there was ever a moment in K-pop history where the universe seemed to conspire to create the perfect luxury endorsement machine, it produced Lee Yo-bok, known to the world as Felix, born September 15, 2000, in Sydney, Australia, and currently sitting at the absolute undisputed summit of Stray Kids' individual sponsorship earnings. This is number 1. This is the conversation that brands have behind closed doors. This is the name that luxury marketing directors whisper when they talk about return on investment, cultural reach, and commercial magnetism that defies every logical framework the industry has ever built. Because Felix isn't just the most sponsored member of Stray Kids. He is, by multiple credible industry metrics, one of the most commercially valuable individual K-pop idols on the entire planet right now. And the story of how a freckle-faced teenager from Sydney who barely spoke Korean when he arrived at JYP Entertainment became the face of multiple billion-dollar global empires simultaneously is one of the most staggering commercial ascents in modern entertainment history. Let's start at the foundation, because context is everything. Felix arrived in Korea as a teenager with an Australian accent, freckles that the K-pop beauty standard had absolutely no framework for, and a face that didn't fit any of the conventional molds of what an idol was supposed to look like. The industry was structured around a very specific set of visual parameters: pale, smooth skin, sharp features, no visible skin texture, and Felix walked in with sun-kissed freckles, a deeply warm complexion, and features that were striking precisely because they were different. During the survival show era, some online communities were genuinely cruel about his appearance, questioning whether he could make it in an industry with such rigid beauty standards. What happened next is one of the most satisfying vindications in the history of the entertainment business. The very features that made him different became the features that made him globally irreplaceable. His freckles, those same freckles that some criticized, became one of the most discussed and celebrated physical features in K-pop fandom culture. His deep, gravelly, resonant bass voice, a voice that sounds like it shouldn't belong to someone his age, a voice that makes producers do a double take when they hear it for the first time, became his most distinctive and marketable vocal signature. His Australian background and native-level English fluency gave him authentic Western market accessibility that brands desperately needed. And his dancing, fluid, precise, full-bodied, emotionally expressive, elevated him to a tier where choreographers and stage directors consistently cite him as one of the most watchable performers in the genre. The combination produced something the beauty and fashion industry had been quietly searching for, a genuinely unique face in a sea of conventional beauty. Now let's talk about Louis Vuitton. And that right there is the full picture. 8 members. 8 brand stories. 8 completely different paths to commercial dominance, each one fascinating, each one unique, each one a testament to the fact that Stray Kids didn't just build a music career, they built empires. From I.N's quiet, steady rise to Felix standing at the peak with Louis Vuitton, MAC Cosmetics, and Stella McCartney firmly in his corner, this group has rewritten the rules of what a K-pop act can achieve in the global endorsement economy. The question was never, which member is the best? The question was always, what does the money say? And today, we let the money do the talking. If you found this breakdown insightful, if you walked away understanding something about the business of K-pop that you didn't know before you clicked play, then this was exactly what it was supposed to be. Don't just watch K-pop. Understand it. Because behind every comeback, behind every music video, behind every Louis Vuitton campaign and every Givenchy front row seat, there is a commercial machine operating at a level that most people never see, and today, we pulled back the curtain together. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay loud because Stray Kids and Stay are just getting started. See you in the next one.